Hi everyone, thank you so very much for joining me. My name is Kassandra and I'm going to take you through this full moon flow. So just a great all-around vinyasa yoga practice that you can do around the time of the full moon. And themes associated with the full moon have to do with gratitude, abundance, community. So this is a really good time to also have a journal close by, and at the end of practice, taking a few minutes for yourself just to write down things that you're grateful for, whatever is present to you right now, whatever is on your mind. The full moon, because it is the brightest time throughout the month, this is also a good time to ask for clarity. So whatever it is that you're looking for, a little bit more guidance and illumination on, these are things that you want to think about as we flow together. And this is maybe a little bit more of an intermediate yoga practice, not requiring any props. And we are going to begin in a child's pose, really focusing on the hips. So bring your big toes together and widen your knees towards the edges of the mat, maybe even a little wider if mobility allows. And really keeping your weight down, you're going to stretch out of your lower back as you walk your hands out in front of you and soften all the way down. So try to relax your neck and your shoulders. I'm really focusing on the breath here. The full moon is associated thematically and symbolically to the top of the inhale. So that fullness that you have when you breathe in really deeply and kind of hold your breath at the top for a split second or so before releasing through the exhale. So as we flow today, you might want to pay special attention to that fullness of the in-breath. So what do you need more clarity on? What do you want to celebrate and show gratitude for? Take 3 more breaths right here. And we'll ease our way up through to tabletop pose. Take your time, aligning your hands under your shoulders, bringing your knees in so they're stacked under your hips. And we're going to take a circular version of cat and cow. So rather than just working from front and back as we move through flexion and extension, you can add a tracing of circles with your hips, with your shoulders, and with your head. And try to make this really intuitive. Don't overthink it. Keep breathing in and out through your nose. See if you can keep your elbows straight as you do this. And it's just a really nice way to get into all the different areas along the spine. And you can move the opposite way. Not rushing through. Getting into the sides of the waist, as much as the front and back body. Take 1 more. And come all the way back through to tabletop pose. I'm just going to situate myself so I'm more so at the top of my mat, and I'm going to move into my modified side plank. So a variation of Vashisthasana. You're going to send that left foot back, roll to the inner edge of your left foot so you're supported here, and then go ahead and extend your left arm up. So balancing on your right hand, right shin, and left foot. You might choose to stay here, or you can add some intensity, kind of like doing a variation or modification of half moon by lifting that left leg up. Trying to get your left foot to be at the same height as your hip. Deep breaths in here. And now maybe adding on like a variation of sugarcane pose, you're adding a bend by bending into that left knee, grabbing a hold of your ankle with your left hand and kind of kicking and pushing the foot into the palm. Making this bow shape with the left leg. And keep this bind, just look down at the floor. This will help you a lot with balance. See if you can maintain the hold of your ankle as you step that left foot forward to the top of the mat. We're setting ourselves up for a low lunge. So I need to shift my leg back a little bit, keeping my left knee over the top of my ankle, and then firm up and extend as you lift on up. Draw the lower belly in. Keep your shoulders over your hips, and we're gonna reach our arms all the way up. You can interlace your fingers, releasing the index and just wrapping one thumb over the other. Really let this extend the energy all the way up towards your fingers. And we'll add a little side bend. So lean all the way over towards the left. Big side body stretch. Come back through to center and just bring those hands to the heart. So bending at the elbows, you're gonna tuck the back toes under to lift your back knee off the floor. And we're just gonna twist from the waist from here. So push your palms in towards each other and twist open to the left. And now go ahead and open up your arms. Palms are flat to the floor. Maybe this is enough. If you'd like, you can reverse from here. Left hand down, right arm up. Big stretch here, finding that crescent shape with the upper body. And let's go ahead and take our flow. Both palms come down to the mat. Step back through to plank pose. And I'm gonna drop my knees down for this first one, lowering to the belly. Bhujangasana, cobra pose. Roll your shoulders back, open through your heart. And from here, we're actually just gonna press our hips back towards the heels and keep them down as you bring your hands back behind you and just focus on lifting up through your heart. So I like to keep my elbows bent here and I'm hugging and squeezing them in towards each other. One more big breath in the pose. And let's find our first downward facing dog. Hands to the mat, tuck your toes under, and go ahead and lift your hips all the way up and back. And any little movements that feel good to you here. Paddling out the feet, maybe turning the head, shaking it yes and no, side to side. Take one more full breath to really stretch it out, and then meet back into your tabletop pose. Make sure that you're still towards the top of your mat, and we'll find that modified side plank on the other side. So this time, right foot steps back behind you. Roll to the inner edge of that right foot so you're fully supported here before lifting that right arm up. Trying to stack one shoulder over the other. Maybe looking up if you're trying to challenge yourself a little bit and work on improving your balance. And if you did it on the first side, we're gonna lift that right leg up, trying to keep the foot relatively at the same height as our hip. Really need to squeeze into the glute to do this. And you can add a bind by bending into your right knee, grabbing a hold of your ankle, and pushing the foot into the palm to get a little bit of a chest stretch here. And maintaining this bind, just look down at the mat to help with balance, and we're gonna step that right foot into our low lunge. So the right foot goes to the top of the mat, and I'm gonna move my back knee a little bit. Push into the floor in order to lift up, lengthen the tailbone down, draw the lower belly in, and that same interlacing here as you reach your arms up, crossing the other thumb on top, pointing the index fingers up, and with this length, add your side bend as you lean over to the right. So finding even more length, along the left side of your body. Lifting back up and through to center. You're gonna tuck the back toes under, lift that back knee off the mat, and you can bend into your elbows as you lower your arms. Let's add our twist here. So push your palms in towards one another and just twist over towards the right. Maintaining that lunge. Open up your arms, palms facing down, and you can reverse, right hand down, left arm up. So an even deeper side body stretch. Into your flow, both palms come down to frame that front foot. From your plank pose, knees can come down or not. We lower to our belly. And cobra pose, push into the tops of the feet as you find this back bend. And we'll come back to sitting on our heels, so just press your hips back. Fingertips go back behind you, same thing here. Just really trying to open up. Broadening through your chest, stretching through the top of the shoulders. One more deep breath, feeling that fullness at the top of the inhale. And let's release for downward facing dog. Reaching your chest back towards your thighs, pressing back through your heels. They really don't need to be touching, and your legs do not need to be straight. We'll build onto our sequence a little bit. So from downward dog, go ahead and reach your right leg up towards the sky, bend your right knee and open up your hip. Get a nice thigh stretch here. And we'll find our way to our warrior two, Virabhadrasana 2. So right foot between the hands, spin your back foot parallel to the shorter edge of your mat, and push into the feet evenly to lift and support you up here. My right knee is pushing open. Reverse warrior, left hand down, right arm up. And keep this side body stretch. You're just going to straighten your right leg. And let this carry you into your triangle pose. Right hand reaches forward and down. Left arm extends up. Again, maybe looking up at your thumb, challenging your gaze and your balance. We're coming into a low lunge, so look down to the mat, bend into that front knee. You can lift your left heel and drop that left knee down. Adding a quad stretch, I'm gonna circle my right hand forward, up and back, bending into the left knee to pull my heel in towards me. Try not to lift your hips to meet your heel. Keep them pressing down and sinking lower. And very slowly release the hold of that back foot, transitioning into your pigeon pose. I'm just gonna walk my right foot over to the left and aligning your right knee behind your right wrist. You can stretch that back leg behind you, squaring off your hips so you're not leaning on one side more than the other. And if you'd like to take a back bend first, you can walk your hands in and get a nice lift here through the chest, really pushing into our left hip. And we'll fold forward. Finding the variation of the pose that feels the best to you right now. And really getting into our hip openers with this full moon class, as well as some back bends and heart openers. So what are you needing clarity on? What are you celebrating and showing gratitude for? You can push your hands into the floor so that you're lifting your way back up. And instead of going right away to our downward dog, you're gonna lean on your right hip and just swing that left leg forward. We'll come into Gomukhasana, our shoelace pose. So I'm wrapping my left thigh over my right one, trying to stack my left knee on top. Grounding down through both sit bones, find a little bit of length here. And if you'd like, you can come into the arch your arms variation of this pose. Left arm reaches up, bend into that left elbow, and maybe just use your right hand to push that elbow back. Or if you'd like, you can clasp. Sometimes even just holding on to clothing can be a nice way to adjust and adapt this. So I prefer to do this arm variation by staying seated up tall. If you want to fold forward doing this, you can. Otherwise, we're just going to take a few more breaths like this and then fold forward. And just go ahead and release your hands, fingertips down, and then maybe walk your hands out in front of you and fold. You can also support your head, or you can just let it dangle and let gravity take you deeper into the pose. Three more breaths right here. Go ahead and walk your hands in. In order to transition, let's find Navasana, our boat pose. Legs up, arms reaching forward. Lift up through your heart as if you were doing a back bend here. And you can cross one ankle over the other, plant your hands, downward facing dog. And you're welcome to hang out and hold here. Or if you'd like, you can take a vinyasa. We flow in, plank, down through chaturanga. Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, your upward facing dog, into your downward facing dog. And so we can set ourselves up for the second side. Left leg rises. Bend your knee, open up through your hip. Really squeeze that knee up and step through warrior two. Take your time to really push and establish that foundation through your feet, lifting up through your quads, arms reaching out. Shoulders are over your hips, and let's reverse. Right hand down, left arm up and over. Keep this side bend as you just straighten your left leg and move into your triangle pose, Trikonasana. Left hand reaches down, right arm extends up. Roll your right shoulder back so you're not collapsing forward here. Don't worry about how far or if you are touching the ground. It really does not matter. And looking towards the mat, let's find our low lunge with a quad stretch. So you're going to bend into that front knee, lift your back heel, drop your right knee to the mat, and continue circling your left arm forward, up and back, and grabbing a hold of your right foot as you pull it in towards you. See if you can melt your hips down a little bit more. And we can slowly release the hold of that back foot into your pigeon pose. You can just wiggle and walk that foot over to the side so that you end up having your left knee somewhere behind your left wrist. Square off through your hips, really push down, get some weight into your right hip bone specifically. And then as you push into the floor, add a little back bend as you lift up through your chest. And maintain this length as we fold down. Any variation of this pose. A good 5 slow, steady breaths. Trying to always find that balance between effort and ease. So know when to engage and when to relax. And we'll walk our hands in, setting ourselves up for shoelace, knee pile pose on the other side. So you can just lean on your left hip a little so that you can bring that right leg forward and wrap it one on top of the other. And before we fold forward, we'll take those archer arms. So this time your right arm reaches up, and maybe just see if you can bring your fingers between your shoulder blades. And you can simply work by pushing that elbow up and back, or you can reach behind and add a clasp. And you might find that one side is a little easier than the other. Both for your hips and for this arm variation. Take one more breath with this clasp. And then you can release your fingertips down, and we're going to fold forward. Again, going as low or staying up as high as is appropriate for your body right now. Three more deep breaths. And you can come on up. We're transitioning back into our boat pose. So unwrapping the legs, lifting them up, reaching your arms forward. And you can cross your other ankle on top, plant your palms, downward facing dog. And let's take our final vinyasa here. So inhale through plank, lower as you exhale. Inhale, back bend. Exhale, our last downward facing dog. See if you can get your heels a tiny bit closer towards the mat, or a little bit more extension through your arms, a little more reach through your chest. And we'll lower our knees down to the mat and just roll so that you're on your right hip. We're going to take a side sphinx pose. So both legs will be straight, and you're aligning your hips with your knees and your ankles, and just using your right hand underneath you for support. So just another type of side bend. We've done quite a few in this practice. My left hand is just supporting and propping me up so that I don't lose my balance. If this feels too intense, you can also just do it from down on your form. You can play with how close or how far you have your right hand. We're starting to slow things down. Transition through your regular Sphinx pose. So on your forearms, hips are grounded. Lift up through your chest, roll your shoulders back. And we'll go to side sphinx on the other side. So you can just roll and rock onto your left hip, keeping your legs stacked, either staying on your forearm or lifting yourself up onto the hand. And I am kind of just letting myself relax into that left shoulder girdle. I'm making this a little bit more passive in nature. So my left shoulder is pretty high up towards my ear, which is not normally something that I would instruct for you to do, but in this pose, it just allows us to get a little bit of a deeper stretch through the side of our waist. And we're coming back to our regular Sphinx pose, but we'll add a quad stretch this time. So one last big stretch here for our legs and lower body. So supporting yourself with your left forearm at about a 45-degree angle, you can bend into your right knee, reach back with your hand and pull that heel in. I want you to really push down into your right hip and push down through your pubic bone so you're not compressing through your lower back. If this feels like pinching or pain in your lower back, you've gone too far, just leave out the quad stretch. And switching sides, right forearm supports you, left hand reaches back to pull that heel in. And letting go of that foot, you can just flip over onto your back. We'll take a reclined twist, opening your arms out, finding a little cactus shape. You can just move your hips to the right a little bit and let both knees and thighs drop over to the left, paying special attention to keeping your right shoulder anchored and grounded on the floor. And floating the knees back up through center. Switch sides, so rock your hips over to the left side of your mat and drop your legs over to the right. Push your left shoulder into the floor. And let's come back through to center. And it might feel good just to pull your knees in towards your chest. You can also take happy baby pose if that feels more nurturing. Just checking in before we come into Shavasana and close our practice. And whenever you're ready, you can extend your legs out, arms out, palms facing up. And you can shrug your shoulders down and away from your ears. Get really comfortable and fully settled here. And of course, I'm filming this during the daytime because I need light. But you might be doing this at night, maybe even outdoors, maybe even underneath the full moon. But regardless of what time you're doing this practice or where you are, as you lie back here in Shavasana with your eyes closed, you can always just visualize yourself under the glow of the moon and really using this as an opportunity to ask yourself what you want to honor at this time. Taking a few minutes here. And let's reawaken. Moving fingers and toes. Stretch your arms up overhead. And you can turn, rolling to one side. Just pause as you cradle your head in your arm. Taking a few breaths here. And you can start to lift your way up. Coming to take a seat. Closing your eyes, hands joined together at the front of the heart. Closing our full moon yoga class together by chanting Om one time. We'll inhale to chant, breathe in. Thank you so very much, everyone, for doing this practice with me. I would love for you to just take a few minutes, grab pen and paper, grab your journal, and just write down whatever came up for you, whatever is on your mind. Again, this is a good opportunity and time to ask yourself what you want to celebrate, what you're grateful for, and also what you're seeking a little bit more clarity on. Please subscribe, and hopefully I'll practice again with you very soon.